Okay, I just saw that we went live on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube right now, what you can do, and you're watching this, if you could make sure that you've downloaded your Easy Check Me app, and you open that app up and you click on the check-in feature and just point it at the screen, the QR code there, and it'll let us know that you are here and you'll get your co-curricular credit for tonight. So glad that you're here. We're gonna just let this go for probably another couple of minutes. All right, if you are just logging onto the webinar or coming on to YouTube at this time, or if you've been here for a while, you're excited because you get to hear the same speech a third time, which is, we hope you downloaded your Easy Check Me app on your phone. You can see your check-in there, your QR code. Just take your phone, open the app, click check-in and point it at the screen, and that will ensure that you're getting co-curricular credit. Just by way of extra information, as Dean Yeagley's email indicated last night, this is the function that most of our campus programming will be able to use for attendance tracking that will help with our contact tracing, but also for most co-curricular programs. So this will be a super simple, easy way for you to get your credit and help us as we try to do our contact tracing through this semester. So thank you for taking a minute to do that right now. We also encourage you, if you know of your friends, this is a really important meeting for our students. Hey, send them a text, let them know it started. Maybe they forgot, they got caught up busy with the day, but we'd love for them to come on and make sure they get complete information and get clarity on a number of questions we're going to be looking at that came from you. So feel free to remind them, let them know that not only is there great content, but there's also co-curricular credit. Okay, I think let's give that one more minute. We'll close it down at 7:06. All right, thank you so much, Dean Yeagley, for getting that up. I think we can go ahead and take that down. Or you can keep it up. There we go. Thank you. Well, first of all, welcome to each of you. Thank you for taking the time to come and, first of all, respond to the request for questions. We got many questions from you all. And tonight we hope to maximize our time and cover as many of those questions So it's exciting to see that level of interest and engagement. Also, we understand that some of you are logged in individually. Others of you are hosting watch parties in your rooms. So thank you for having you and your roommate in your room, because that is what we expect for watch parties at this time. Thank you. If for some reason I noticed one of you just sent a message, you had a challenge with your check-in, please notate your ID number and your name in the chat and direct it to the panelists. That question just came in. I want to take a moment and have a word of prayer, and then we'll move into introductions. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for what it's taken to get us to this moment in our school year. Classes have begun. We are here, and we're so grateful that we have opportunity to be together and to experience school together and really live out our purpose and mission right here on campus at Andrews University. Be with us right now. It is you, Father, who says and makes the invitation come. Let us reason together, and that's what we want. We want your spirit guiding our conversations tonight. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Our discussion tonight will begin with Dr. Luxton, who is our university president, and Dr. Feiner, who's our vice president of campus and student life. They're both going to share with us some larger questions. And then after that, we'll cut into our panelist time, where we'll go over many of the questions, most of the questions that you've asked. For the sake of time, and also because we wanted to make sure that we have the most complete answers available for you, and because of the volume of questions that came in, we're only going to be able to focus on the questions that did come in, and there are many. If you happen to feel that we missed one of your questions, I want to let you know two things. One, there's going to be more opportunities coming up in smaller venues to address some of your questions. And two, you're always welcome to email your questions to either your professor or to your dean or wherever, your employer, or directly to the Student Life office, and they'll be happy to tend to your questions one-to-one. I would encourage you to wait till the end of all the panel discussion questions before submitting your question, because there's a good chance that it's going to be covered. So at this time, I'm going to turn over the mic to Dr. Luxton.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. We felt this was a really important event to have, just so we could touch base with you at the beginning of this year and be together as we move forward. You know, a few months ago, we faced the question that every university in this country faced, which is, what do we do? Should we open for face-to-face, or is it just too risky and we can't do it? And there were two broad reasons why we decided to open. One was that we did feel that we had the capacity to prepare the campus and to make plans that would mitigate risk as much as is possible. We felt that was possible. The second thing is, and this is critical, and this is really our conversation for tonight. The second thing was, we asked ourselves, do we have the kind of community, the kind of student community that can make this work? And if we couldn't answer yes to that, then really we could not open. And we discussed that. We discussed that as administration. We discussed it with student life personnel. We discussed it with faculty. And I want you to know that there was a very strong sense from everybody that yes, we do have the kind of student community here that would allow us to make this work. Now, that confidence that the university and the administration and the faculty have in you as students, I think is really, really important to our conversation. Because without that trust, without what has to be mutual trust, really, we have a problem. So how are we doing so far? And let me just give you a few updates and then a few things other things that you need to know. First of all, as you know, we went the route of compulsory testing. Not every university has done that. We thought that was really, really critical for us to have a baseline. And we are really pleased we did, because as you know, from the initial report that came out, all the cases that tested positive were asymptomatic. That means without the testing, they would not have been identified. And that means that we are a safer campus because we were able to identify. So we had from the Andrews University community a total of 8 positive tests. And then Andrews Academy, an additional 2. Of those 8, 5 have already been released by the health department. So that is a positivity rate, if you follow those types of things, including of about 0.3989%. Okay. If you check what other universities are, for example, Notre Dame, before they had the other problems they had now, was a 0.9. So that gives you some kind of comparison of where we started. We still have about 200 test results to come in. Okay. That could change things slightly, but basically that is where we stand at this point in time. And then we have about 20 individuals in quarantine related to all of the original cases. That's including the 2 academy students. So that is, if you think about it, 10, that's about an average of 2 contacts per person that are in quarantine because of that. We, as you know, we also have Campus Clear, and I do hope that you have uploaded that. If you have not, please do it as soon as you get off this call. That's really, really important, because that gives us a snapshot every single day of what is happening on the campus. And if anyone is having challenges, we have it documented. If it's one of what we call a high risk factor, immediately we make contact. If it is low risk, we watch it for a couple of days, but it gives us an indication, okay? And we really, really do need everybody to be on board with Campus Clear. So that's a really important thing to do. As you know, we've also made a number of other plans across the campus in a multitude of ways. We are still improving that and doing things as we can. And some of those things will be reflected in some of your questions and some of our answers as we try and tighten up or protocol or improve things for you. And I think that's something that is positive. Hopefully before you all came, because you said you had read what we have as the Covenant of Care. And Dr. Fainer, when she speaks, will go through again some of the details of what that means as a daily practice every day. But at core, what that means is that we are saying, as a community, we go into this semester recognizing that right at the top of everything, we have a responsibility here of care, yes, to ourselves, but also to everyone else on this campus and to this community. Okay. And I just want to pause there because, you know, if you have been following news and listening to what's happening on other university campuses, you will know that some have had problems. You know, as I have walked around the campus, on the whole, I have been very pleased with seeing the responsible way that I am seeing people respond as they move around the campus. Yeah, I think there are things that we can maybe still do a little bit better, but on the whole, there's a level of responsibility there, and I really want to thank you for that. But I do need you to know that as you have seen with other universities, things can go wrong if people or groups of people decide that it really may not matter, or it may not matter when they're off the campus. And it does matter. It matters very much. You know, often in a university environment, just to be realistic, students think, well, you know, if I do that and get away with it, nobody knows, it's okay. Well, this is a different environment now. It really, really does matter what we do. And so you need to know that in the hopefully very unlikely circumstance that a group of individuals on the campus decide they are going to contravene our regulations, they are going to meet in larger groups than are allowed off campus, they are going to do so without masks, without the physical distancing. Any information like that that comes back to us, the minimum response will be that everyone involved will be quarantined for 2 weeks. That's the minimum. And individuals that engage in inviting that are much more likely for even more than that to happen. Even public universities, you will realize, have been doing this. Students have been sent home. They have been suspended off the campus for 2 weeks for violating the protocols. That is really, really how important it is. Because if we do that, we put at risk everyone else on this campus. And that is not a fair thing to do. You know, we may feel fine. We may, with a group of people, we say, well, we all feel fine, so it's fine. But it is not. As we know already, most students who are sick, who get something on this campus, will probably be asymptomatic. So please, no risks. Please do not put us in the position of having to act in a way we do not want to act in our response. I'm going to pass over in a moment to Dr. Feiner, but I just want to end my comment with kind of where I started. We have opened the campus face to face because we know that many of you wanted that, and because we believe that we can do it. We will do all we can. We will be as responsive as we can to concerns you have. But we are in this together, and it is going to require all of us to follow through on the covenant of care that we agreed to at the beginning. Right, I'm going to be quiet now and pass over to Dr. Feiner, and I'll be back on to help answer some of the questions later. Dr. Feiner.
Hello, greetings. It's just wonderful to have you back on campus. Just as I was slipping in the office this evening, I greeted a number of you, and it reminded me of some things we're going to talk about in the Q&A. But yes, we're also going to talk a little bit more about the covenant of care, but I thought I would just summarize it first in a simple way, that even some of our most prominent physicians, a local one here in our community, Dr. Loren Hamill, he doesn't have a conversation about COVID without talking about the basics. And so I thought I would frame these first few statements indicating what are the top ways to get exposed to COVID, to become a close contact, or to not be here. And so the first big one is wash your hands. And we're all learning how to do that. Dr. Hamill taught us that you do it for the time it takes you to sing happy birthday. Maybe this year we should be singing happy birthday to ourselves every day. And I've also heard that maybe you should sing it twice during the time you're washing your hair, but your hands. So that's the first thing, how to be exposed to COVID. It's not washing your hands. The second thing is not wearing your mask. So let's help each other on this. I've actually seen tremendous compliance to this. We don't like it. It's not fun for any of us. And we're just gonna all work together to help each other to find a way to deal with this. And then one of the best ways to have to be quarantined is to not watch your distance. And so we're going to be saying this over and over tonight and in many of our other conversations with you. If you're less than 6 feet for 15 minutes or more, that will place you in quarantine for 14 days if one of those individuals you were with was tested as positive. So if you want to get in quarantine, then one of the best ways to do that is to not be 6 feet away from those that you're around. So one other little word about the connection of the Covenant of Care to our general code of student conduct. If you were to go on to the website where the student handbook is located in our student life section of the webpage, you will see now under the code of student conduct in the handbook that code 30 is now talking about violating any policy of the university, including the code of student conduct. So that is part of our general expectations for student life here at Andrews University. And just before we get into the questions, I too have my own thoughts about, for me, why I hope you'll be inspired to take our messages tonight so seriously. And it relates to a program that was planned just a couple days after the big March 11th. You remember we met in the church if you're a returning student. For new students, we met in the church when Dr. Luxton and Dr. Arthur shared this shocking news that for everyone's safety and well-being, we were going to go remote. And so several of us went to probably the last program we had here on campus in the spring. And it was one of the most poignant experiences I think I've ever had here at Andrews University. A few of you were there. And it was just heart-wrenching to watch, especially seniors, talk of how just abruptly and rudely how they planned to finish the spring semester was impacting their life. And so more than anything, I want each of you to be able to safely have the face-to-face experience that you long to have, which is why you're here. And so I know that the expectations will not be easy, but it's all about being able to be here and not have to repeat what we experienced last spring. And I also hope that you are motivated with your care for each other, and that every individual on this campus is a child of God that you want to protect and care for and keep as safe as possible. So as our Covenant of Care shares words from Scripture that in humility we value others as more important than ourselves, that's what God is calling us to do. And I know, you know, that you're also very motivated to be here, to have face-to-face classes. And so as we work through all of the questions and our Q&A with you tonight, it's all about trying to make that possible. And there'll be a lot of amazing things along the way to give you that vibrant experience that you're looking for outside of the classroom. But it will take a lot of work, each of us following the steps to keep ourselves safe, keep each other safe, and keep this community safe. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you so much, VP Fainer. And I mean, just as you're talking there, I'm encouraged because, you know, every year we have conversations with students about our expectations of what it means to be a student of Andrews University. And I would say by far, the majority always agree, always follow through, and are outstanding students. And I think that this year, even in our different situation that our Andrews University students, guys, I believe we can do this. It is an adjustment, but just like many, most, nearly all have demonstrated in the past, you can keep with this covenant of care. And it's really important as you hear these that you encourage your peers to follow this, because we're in a unique situation where it only takes one or two people acting outside of these protocols to affect a lot of us. So thank you for always demonstrating a high bar. I want to take a minute here to introduce our panelists. And as I introduce you, feel free to jump on the screen if you'd like. We have as our panelists, Dr. Arthur, who's the provost here. We also have VP or Dean Yeagley, who's the Assistant Vice President of Campus and Student Life. We have Ben Panago, who's the Director of Campus Safety, joining us later. And we also have Steve Nash, who is the Director of Facilities. So these are our panelists for tonight. Like I said, we got a good number of questions. We're going to go through the questions that we've received. If at the end of tonight's panel discussion, a panel presentation, you have additional questions, I did get some clarity. Could you email covid19@andrews.edu and we'll make sure that you get an answer. But I encourage you to hold your questions if you have others until we finish our panel presentation at the end, because there's a good chance we're going to get you covered. So let's begin with our first series of questions in the area of academics. Dr. Arthur, here's the question that came through. Many classes are offering in-person classes in addition to a Zoom-based online option. Why are community students not allowed to attend online if it is more convenient for them? The tuition amount is the same, and it doesn't cost the university more money. If anything, it saves them from having to disinfect their desks.
That's a great question, and thank you for asking that. So earlier in the summer, towards the end of spring, early summer, we communicated to students to say, if you want to study remotely, have conversations through VP Michael Nixon. We'll look at your request and we would act accordingly. And so we have, a couple hundred students at least who have requested to study remotely, and we have, for the most part, granted those requests. So I'm disappointed that we didn't reach you in time. You didn't receive from us that bit of information, because we made it possible for students to reach out to us, indicate that you want to study remotely. We offered certain classes with remote capabilities just to serve those students. So yes, we made that offer and some took us up on it. I'm sorry we didn't get to you in time, so you could have requested that.
Excellent. Next question. What do we do if we feel one of our classes has too many students to be properly socially distanced? If I'm uncomfortable with how close and cramped the classroom is, what are my options?
So I would say begin with your faculty. Talk with the faculty to say, I think we have too many students for the size of room that we have. What do you think? Have a conversation there. If you still feel dissatisfied with the response, talk with your advisor. We do have a broad support group within the campus. Talk with your advisor. Say, I'm attending a class and I have some discomfort. Based on what program you're in, if the advisor you think didn't quite answer the question the way you would have hoped for, talk with your department chair or dean. Last resort, talk with even me or with VP Fainer, who is your VP for Student Life. Have conversations. Don't simply take it elsewhere. Take it to the persons who can assist. And the first place to go is to maybe talk with the person who's actually in the class with you, your faculty.
Excellent question. Our goal tonight is to make sure nobody has to say you're muted.
Yes.
Good. How will my teachers know if I'm cleared or not cleared to attend face-to-face classes?
So Andrews has a very powerful tool, and I've learned more about it the last few days than I knew for the last 10 years. It's called iView. It's very powerful. So within iView, there is the teachers, the faculty members class roster. So every class with a roster would have the names of the students. And because we have your photo with your ID, the photo is there. We've added a notation to iView. And in that notation, we're telling your faculty in that class roster the students who've been tested, and we have the results, and they're cleared to attend classes face-to-face. The students who have been tested, we have the results, and they're taking classes remotely, and they're cleared to take classes remotely. The students who have been tested and for whatever reason, that student might have been exposed and is in quarantine, that student might have a positive test result, and those other results that might make it a bit unsafe to be in the face-to-face classroom environment. The notation will say, and that's because for your privacy, all the notation will say is a student is not cleared for face-to-face class, but can take remote classes temporarily. And we'll update that list multiple times per day, at least once per day, but maybe more than that, so that you're never quite permanently in any category. As that condition changes, the data will change, your faculty will be notified, and we'll keep updated information so that we keep a very safe and orderly classroom environment. So iView, very powerful tool we'll use to notify our teachers.
Thank you for answering those questions. We're going to move into some questions now in the area of campus events and co-curricular. How will we leverage EasyCheck.me across the campus? Will this only be used for university events, or will the different schools and departments be able to use this for their gatherings?
Well, let me say thank you to everybody who checked in tonight. This was our maiden voyage for EasyCheck.me, and it actually worked quite well. We've had just a handful that were not able to check in, perhaps because they had difficulty installing the app. But please let me know if that's the case, and we'll help you get it installed. So yes, we hope to leverage this across the campus. There may be some instances, some programs where another method would make more sense. But one of the reasons that we like the EasyCheck.me app is that it can be used, as you've seen tonight, virtually in remote programs, as well as in-person programs. And so in years past, many of you, if you've been here before, you're used to checking in at programs for co-curricular credit, as you did tonight. But when you go to an in-person program on campus, we'll also be taking attendance there, even if it's not receiving co-curricular credit. It may be a social program like we had on Saturday night, our movie event, outdoor movie event. We asked you to check in there, and I'll explain more about that later. So yes, we hope, we're actually been able to talk with the developer of this app. I had a personal Zoom meeting with him and another of his tech people. So we've even had some input into the development of this brand new app. And there are more features coming, and we're hoping that those will be very helpful for us to broadly launch this across campus with any professor or department that would like to use it.
Excellent, Dean Aileen. You kind of answered another question that had come out, which was, I heard attendance will be taken at all campus events, regardless of co-curricular credit.
Yes, that's true.
Can you tell us a little bit about why? Why are we doing that?
Well, it's simply for the purpose of contact tracing. And so, as was explained earlier, if we have someone who tests positive, we need to be able to work our way back to see who that person may have been in proximity to. And if we can aggregate data from activities across campus as well as classes, it can help our contact tracers work much more effectively to see who may have been exposed. So that's the purpose for that.
Excellent. And so if you go to a university event and there is an attendance being taken, feel free to nudge the event organizer and say, man, it would be great if we had a way to check in. They will love it. I plan lots of events every year. I get nudged all the time. So please feel free to nudge your event organizer and ask them to take attendance if for some reason they didn't set that up.
Oh, that is nudge from 6 feet away, right?
That is not from 6 feet away. Yes, that's right. Question about co-curricular. How will co-curricular requirements work for undergraduates that are here face-to-face and for those who are studying remotely?
Well, as you know, we have a shorter semester this fall, just 13 weeks. And so we're basing all of our requirement on that number of weeks. For those of you who are studying in person, you will be required just 2 per week on average. So it'd be 26 for the semester. And you may be familiar with, sometimes we have minimums. So 11 of those need to come from our Thursday programming, and 5, if you're a resident in the residence halls, need to come from the programs offered there. And then if you're one of the hybrid limited contact learners, or maybe a 100% remote learner, we're going to reduce that to just 1 on average per week. So that'd be 13 for the semester. And those will be the requirements, and those 13 can come from any of the programs that we offer.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I assume this will be posted on the co-curricular website at some point for students to reference again.
Yes, and I should answer just one more part of that, and that is that if you are studying remotely, you may wonder, well, are there going to be virtual options for programming options? And absolutely there will be. Every Friday night, Vespers is going to be streamed live. Our Thursday chapel groups this year, we're not going to have large chapel programs. We're going to have what are called pulse groups meeting. You'll be assigned to one of those very soon. And many of those will be meeting virtually, possibly all. And we also have a couple of webinar series coming up that I'm really excited about. One is called Thrivecast with Dr. Dominique Gamelt, and possibly another one coming from our VP of Diversity and Inclusion. So look forward to lots of good virtual programming as well as in-person programming this coming semester.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dean Yeagley. We have some questions now related to dining services. The lines at lunch have been long. What adjustments are you making?
Okay, the president mentioned at the top that we have a lot of planning that we've done. We put a huge manual together, but there's nothing like fine tuning it and having students on campus and knowing that we have some further adjustments to make. So I've spent quite a bit of time talking with the Bon Appetit manager. And first of all, some of you may not yet be aware that already the mealtime hours have been expanded. So especially if you happen to miss breakfast, be aware that they are open from 7 to 3. They do not close between breakfast and lunch. And she noticed that probably close to 50 students are taking advantage of that, coming during that time that normally they're closed. And boy, we'd like to increase that to take the pressures off the 11:20 and the 12:20 rush. But here's the biggest adjustment that she's working on. And she told me she's trying to have it ready for lunch tomorrow. Thank you. And she has carefully stared at all of her square footage up there, because we have our campus safety director and Steve Nash that'll make sure that you can navigate up there 6 feet apart. And she has sorted out a new way to make sure that when you pass by the cashier where you scan your card, there now will be 2 lines up on top in the servery. And that should mean whatever you've experienced will thankfully, hopefully, be twice as fast. So be very careful, because there'll be more people up in the servery, and we'll ask everybody to really work hard together to see if we can make these 2 lines serving the hot food go much quicker. Then the other thing, maybe I'm jumping Jose Chaplin-Bourget into the next question, if that's okay. I'll just tie them together. One of the major things that is going to take pressure off is getting your favorite gazebo open. You've told us through the years that it's the place you love the best. And so that was by far the highest number of questions, I think, that came into the COVID site. When will the gazebo open? So here's what they're working on, which I think is a wonderful plan for your well-being and to try to minimize all of your waiting time in the gazebo, or I should probably say almost all. But they have redesigned the gazebo and the area out front so that you will be able to place your order for the gazebo from wherever you are on campus, from your room, from the classroom. Oop, you should be listening to what's going on, but you'll be able to place that order, and they will let you know when it's ready so that when you come to pick up the order, there is very little wait. So it's that technology, trying to get that new app ready to roll, that has held us up this week. We understand they will be trying the new technology on Friday, and that we hope by early next week that the gazebo will be back open. And that will take some of the traffic away, obviously, from the long lines for the Terrace Cafe. So we hope that those adjustments will make a huge difference. Jose, I'm just gonna run on that even supper, several of you have told us that without the gazebo open, you're not able to meet that 5 to 7 supper hour time. And because we believe the gazebo will be open by early next week, we feel that the solution is there soon. But Linda Breniger has volunteered that she will find a way to take care of you if you are one of those students and you can't get to supper. And she wants you to email her at linda.breniger@cafebonappetit.com. I may ask one of my associates to get that in the chat. And she has a couple of solutions she may be working out for you where you could pick up your supper at lunch or something, just to make sure we can help you make it through the week. I think I might have covered that exciting section, Chaplin-Bourget, but I'll let you decide.
It was a thrilling connection, all the questions. I'm just so excited. But you know what I'm really excited about is that here's one possible big plus of all of this. Gazebo wait time is going to be less than it's ever been.
If I could jump in here, Chaplain-Bourget.
Yes.
Go ahead, Doc.
I could hear a student saying, well, you know, until the gazebo is open and the lines are shorter, that means I could take my friends in my car and go downtown Berrien Springs and have lunch out there. Bad idea. Bad idea. Let me tell you why. Within your car, unless you have one person behind you on the passenger side, back seat, and you have a very large car, you wouldn't get your 6 feet social distancing, physical distancing. So unless that person is your roommate and you've been sharing the room together, and so you've had this, you know, common community experience together, and you think, yes, my roommate, well, maybe so. But beyond your roommate, to take friends with you in your car and then decide to go find food somewhere else, you've just placed you and all of your friends at risk. Because if one person in that car, for some reason, turns out to be positive for COVID-19, there it goes. All of you, 2 weeks. And not just that, every person that you might have been close to walking across the lawn at Vespers or something, and you came a bit too close for too long, there they go, quarantine. So the idea of traveling by car to go find food someplace else because the lines are a bit long, I would say take the extra 20 minutes in the line and minimize that risk than trying to save 20 minutes and having to be in your room for 2 weeks. Do the calculation. I know which is better, not the 2 weeks in your room.
Or put your mask on and go for a nice long walk and walk
Yes.
down to get the food.
If you want to go walk from the campus to Apple Valley, beautiful. Put your mask on, walk to Apple Valley. But carpooling is not a good idea.
Yep, we can definitely get our steps in. That'll be good. That'll be good. Thank you. All right, so a couple of questions now for in the area, a word that has become part of our common vocabulary, mitigation. Okay, here's a question, and I think we could have Steve or Ben answer this one. I expected to see cleaning supplies or maybe just disinfecting wipes in my classroom so I can sanitize my area. I didn't see that on the first day of classes. Will they be provided? Is it that we are expected to clean everything with a little bottle of spray that we got at testing?
So Steve, I can jump in first if you'd like.
Okay.
So when it comes to cleaning, it's going to be a multifaceted approach where different people are responsible to clean different areas. So yes, those bottles that were handed out for disinfectant spray are for students to use for their individual desks. And we're going to have refill stations across the campus, both in academic buildings and in the dorms, to help refill those bottles so you can continue to use them. Faculty have also been provided bottles so they can spray down the areas in their immediate spaces, as well as the lecterns or anything else up front in the classroom. Individual departments have also been issued spray bottles to help clean other areas outside of the classroom, but maybe inside the department. Here that we're talking about is making sure that the chemical is rated for COVID-19 to disinfect, and dwell time matches its evaporation time. So finding chemicals that are available, that are safe to use has been our objective. And that's the chemical that we've been issuing out, a product by 3M. And that's the basic objective. And that's why we're kind of spreading this out across all parties to make sure that we're cleaning these in different areas. Steve, do you mind sharing a little bit about custodial's work for the whole building?
Sure. So custodial has always cleaned every classroom every night, every morning, every night. And they're adding to that hydrostatic sanitizing after the cleaning process. So they're doing their regular cleaning, and then they go do in the first thing in the morning, a sanitizing with a mist basically over all the chairs and desks, etc. So that's so every day is getting kind of a regular deep cleaning and then a sanitizing, and then in between classes, the students are doing the sanitizing where they have sat. So we feel like this is the very best that we're doing daily, deep, and every class time each student is doing theirs. And let me just comment on the wipes. The reason we're not using the wipes is a couple fold. One is it's very hard to find wipes that have the ability to kill viruses. Usually what happens, we feel wipes are great, all of us personally, but what happens is chemicals on wipes typically take 5 to 10 minutes before they kill, and the chemical is dried up. You just do a quick wipe over it and the chemical dries in about a minute and you haven't effectively killed everything. So that's why we're doing the spray, let it sit and walk out. And the 3M chemical that we're using has a 3-minute dwell time, which means in 3 minutes it kills 99% of all viruses.
That's excellent. Next question related to mitigation. If I did not receive my masks and health kit, where can I pick this up?
Sure. So the rest of the health kits are going to be available at the Student Life main office in the campus center starting on Wednesday. Just as a reminder, the office is open from 9 to 12:30 and then 1:30 to 5 p.m. each day, except on Fridays where they won't open in the afternoon.
Excellent. All right, so we have a few more questions right now in the area of screening. First question here is, how does the Campus Clear follow-up work? When can I expect a case manager to follow up with me if I indicated I have some symptoms?
So the big thing here to talk about is how we use Campus Clear as part of our triage. So the first thing to remember is when anyone is sick, we want them to stay home sick, regardless if it's COVID related. We don't want to be spreading any type of germ or virus. So when you screen through Campus Clear, it may direct you to stay home sick, and there may be consideration for maybe further escalation if there's some other indicators. So every day we download a report from Campus Clear to see who's reported screening, and we look at it to flag potential cases. And so we start with everyone who's reported, and for what it's worth, about 98% of all the information coming in reports no symptoms. So those that are reporting some symptoms is a very small percentage. And we look at that data to identify who could be a potential case. And so some of the factors are considered where we look at if someone's reported a high risk symptom. So this could be somebody who's tested positive, who's in close contact, who has a fever, who has difficulty breathing. These are individuals that we want to call same day to, one, check in on them, make sure they're doing okay, that they've gotten the support, and then also talk about next steps. Some other potential cases that we have is if someone's reported more than one symptom that day. So if there's 2 or 3, there may be a bigger indicator of what's going on. So that can be a red flag for us as well. And then we also look for individuals who report any number of symptoms multiple days in a row. And through this process, we're hoping to help, one, identify areas where we need more support for our students and maybe identify possible risk, but also allowing individuals to maybe have a day where maybe their allergies are worse, or maybe they didn't get a good night's sleep because they're studying. And so we're hoping to help triage this as it escalates up. As far as when the individual or our case management team will contact. Right now, we're pulling the report about 5 p.m. each day. This has started because as we first started this process, we found that in the evening hours, we're still getting a lot of reports, and we want to make sure we don't miss that data. We're hoping that as we all get used to a class schedule and getting up early in the morning and submitting that Campus Clear screening report, that we can move this time up earlier. And this will allow us to get that data and act on it even earlier than we are currently.
Thank you. That was a very thorough response, Mr. Panago. Next question related to screening. How do I get a consultation with a healthcare provider if I'm concerned about symptoms? Mention hotlines. Okay.
I'll take this, and Ben may be able to do a follow-up. We had a student point out something that we double checked, that we wanted to make sure that the hotline for the Lakeland screening number is working. And we double checked it over the weekend. And when you check into your Campus Clear, and if it indicates, if you indicate you have symptoms, there is the phone number for the hotline, giving you that as one option to call. And Ben Panago himself checked it out. You may get a little bit of a wait. It may refer you to another number, but it does work. And that is right in your Campus Clear app if you have symptoms. But the other thing to be aware is, of course, the medical center during the day is open to anyone, and they are doing a lot of telehealth, 473-2222. And our residence hall students have that as part of their care plan and room and board package to have routine services by a doctor there. And so your deans can help you if you don't remember this number, figure out how to connect with the medical center 24/7. There is a emergency call number that someone will call you back, even if it's in the middle of the night. And I think I'm going to mention something here that will save us for another question. We have worked out with transportation that if someone does not have a car or would be putting themselves at risk, as Dr. Arthur shared with us earlier, that it's probably safest in most cars just to have one person. We've arranged with transportation to provide critical transportation for any medical needs or testing needs. And I will share those phone numbers in the chat. I think it's 3519 if it's daytime, And then there is an evening number as well. But I'll leave it at that for that question, Jose.
Excellent, thank you. Flu season's right around the corner. What happens if or when I get a routine seasonal cold? Do I have to stay out of classes?
So Dean Feener, I can jump in first if you'd like, but basically, if you're sick, we want you to stay home. And again, not necessarily whether it's the routine seasonal cold or something more serious like COVID or flu. If you're sick, we want you staying home so that we're not spreading any type of germ or disease out there. There may be a time, like we mentioned earlier, where we may escalate the response if there's some other indicators for maybe more severe sickness or symptoms. But yeah, if there's a cold coming around, please stay home and make sure you don't help spread it.
And there is a recommendation to potentially see the value, maybe more than ever, of getting a flu shot, because the medical counselors that have chatted with me say that initially they may treat flu and COVID the same. You don't know for sure what it is. So definitely stay home and talk with your folks about whether getting a flu shot is a good thing for this year. And of course, that includes all of us, undergraduates and graduate students. Thinking about that is one way to know, well, I got the flu shot, so maybe I should be a little more concerned about this. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. When is the next testing dates, and will Andrews be testing again?
Maybe I can answer this. So we agreed, we have a contract which gives us a certain number of tests. We have a fair number of those tests that are still allocated to us that we can use. We can also buy more later if we want to, but right now we do have them. So we are going to think about the best way of doing that. We want to, we're thinking possibly of having 1 day a week when we have a certain number of tests available. We also, however, want to make sure that if there is concern in a particular area, that we can immediately test a certain group of people. So we're going to kind of leverage the tests we have left the best way we possibly can to make people feel safe and feel that they can access this if needed. And remember that there's also possibilities in the community too. We can also access for individuals at times of need.
If I wanted to be tested off campus, what are my options?
We are going to do a follow-up to this time with you to make sure that some of the information that may be a little hard to write down, we have a way to get it to you in writing. But we have learned that there are 2 free options in Berrien County that we're aware of. There may be more. I know there's several in South Bend at no cost, the Rite Aids in Bridgman and Niles. And we've recently heard about some pretty quick turnaround at those places. And those are 2 options, Chaplain Bourget. And I think I've already talked a little bit about the transportation, and I will try to get those phone numbers in the chat so folks know how they could get there if it's critically important on their mind.
Excellent, thank you. Some questions now regarding isolation and quarantine. What are my options if I tested positive or may test positive in the future?
So options makes it sound a little bit like a buffet style here, but so when we have somebody who tests positive, the first thing that's really going to happen is making sure that we start them in isolation. And this is to limit the reduction of transmission after this. So someone who gets put in isolation is going to be in isolation for a minimum of 10 days. And then a minimum with that of 24 hours without symptoms. When somebody is in isolation, while they may physically be in the room by themselves, it doesn't mean that they're alone as far as the campus is concerned. And so we're going to make sure that we activate all of our university support services to help these individuals get through that 10-day piece. And whether for our residence halls, connecting them with food delivered to the door, connecting them with Chaplain Bourget, your office, to see if they'd like someone to talk to help talk about that stress, or with counseling and testing, connecting them with student success if there's an issue while they're out of class and making that last assignment get in. So we're gonna work through those. The other piece I would mention is that all positive tests in the state of Michigan have to be reported to the local health departments. So for us, Berrien County Health Department would be notified, and they'd be following up as well.
Excellent. How do you determine who is close contact with someone who tests positive?
So that is the big part of contact tracing, another hot key word that's been coming up this season. So one, when we identify an individual who is positive, there's an interview process where we talk to them about close contacts. And a close contact is anybody who's within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more. And this is regardless if someone was wearing a face mask or not. And on Dr. Arthur's point, that does include being inside a vehicle. So the proximity or somebody who had direct physical contact with another individual, individuals who are sharing, eating, drinking utensils, or somebody who literally sneezed on someone. So part of it is going through that interview process with the individual to help identify those. We also have some other systems that we've used in the past to help identify and locate missing persons. Is using similar processes there to help identify where people may have interacted. This could include using all of the event attendance records from Being Igloo, or working with faculty to talk about classroom seating assignments, who you may have seated next or sat next to. So through all those processes, we should be able to identify the majority of those that were in close contact and take next steps.
Chaplain Jose, if I could add something here, I think one of the critical things here then is for us to minimize the number of people that could be our close contacts. And it's not a bad thing at night to just sit there and reflect, okay, how many people would be on the contact list today if something happened? Because, I mean, the good news about the people that tested positive before is because a number of them had followed significant positive procedures. And so we only had 20 people in quarantine for 9 people, okay? You might think that's a lot, but if you divide that up, that's really not that bad. But you know, you'd want it to be 0 contact if possible, and that's where we need to be careful of other people.
This is an excellent time to start dating with healthy boundaries in place, is what I would say. What happens to students identified as a close contact?
So these would be individuals that would then go into quarantine. So again, quarantines for individuals in close contact, and isolations for individuals who test positive or symptomatic. Individuals that are in quarantine and will be in quarantine for 14 days. This means that they need to, stay at their residence, not attend class, don't go to work, and basically wait out those 14 days and continue to report any symptoms to the Campus Clear app.
Oh, could you confirm 14 days from when?
Oh, good. So 14 days from the last point of contact with the COVID person. So during the contact trace procedures, we will also ask who you're in contact with and when it happened. So it's 14 days from the date you last saw that person. The other thing that we've gotten some clarification on from the health department is that once you're in that quarantine, a negative test will not release that quarantine. And this is due to the incubation period and how even waiting 4 days, there still may be point of risk. So from the health department's perspective, once you're in quarantine, you're in it for the full 14 days.
And I may interject that we just learned this information, and it's been quite interesting. My email box has kind of blown up today from schools all over Michigan that are getting this same clarity from all the local health departments. And we had done the consultations this summer and didn't quite have that understanding. So that is some clarity that we are going to have to work on helping our students as best we can. And I think, Jose, it will bring us to the next question, that we have already been working with students really struggling with just how difficult the quarantine is. And as I talked with Dr. Luxton about this, and we thought about a wonderful outdoor venue that we have in the courtyard. I'm saying the courtyard, not inside the Andreasen Center for Wellness. We have decided that we will give anyone that's in quarantine the opportunity to reach out to the manager. If one of my colleagues here can put in the chat, Rachel Keel's email address, she will work with you to design a time that you can come in the back door of the courtyard and have a period of time that would be out there in the fresh air, moving around, and maybe a few other things that might especially be tailored for you. So if you'll reach out to Rachel Keel, we are going to work on that for students that are currently in quarantine. And we wish there were no more new students that would ever have to be in quarantine, but we want to try to help you navigate through it. And this is a new plan that we've come up with. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you. And this is, you know, in talking with some of the students who are going through quarantine, it's a preference not to be in quarantine. It's a preference not to be quarantined. So however we can help each other, let's do it. And that's what this conversation is about. One of the people that I know is working really hard to do that is VP Nixon. One of the questions that just came in is, VP Nixon, why are you wearing a face mask and a face shield?
Thank you, Chaplain Jose, for that piercing question. I apologize for being tardy around this time frame. I'm brushing my beard so I can catch up with Ben, who has surpassed me. But to answer your question, so for me, from my perspective, it's just an extra measure in order to be a little bit extra safe. And so, of course, wearing the mask, of course, as we've seen, is the really, if you had to pick between the two, pick the mask for sure. That's clear. But having the shield gives me extra protection for the eyes, of course. And so, you know, I want to protect the eyes. And, you know, it's also, I don't know, it's a little bit of a conversation starter, you know, and so if someone sees me with the shield on, we can get to talking. And I think it's also really going to help me in the winter because, you know, it's going to, right now it's a little bit hot, but when we get into those cooler months, you're probably going to want to have a shield. It may not look as funny to you when I'm nice and, you know, protected in those winter months.
Appreciate your response, VP Nixon. We understand brevity is not.
Yeah, appreciate you cutting me off. Thank you.
No problem, man. Just trying to get to it. I thought you were just going to say trendsetter. Yeah. Trend setting was what you needed. Yeah. All right, we just got a couple more questions, guys, and we'll be wrapping up here. What is the best way to report any type of concern I have about COVID-19? That includes my observations of what concerns me on or off campus conduct. For example, people interacting without masks or not wearing their masks properly, over the nose, friends, over the nose, or hosting or attending off-campus parties.
So I think this question is coming from students that really want to be here and really want to have us as a community follow all of the COVID-related restrictions outlined in the Covenant of Care. And so some of them are saying, we'll let you know because we want to be here so badly, and will you help the community respond and take these expectations seriously? So there's two ways that you can report. The easiest one, because we've mentioned it multiple times tonight, is to use the covid19@andrews.edu. That is reviewed by the response team, which Ben Ponigo coordinates on a daily basis. And I want to mention that again to you because we owe you some more answers to some new questions that didn't come in time for us to get them. We're already running over time. But for the questions that we're not able to answer tonight, we will try to sort out the best way to respond to them. And the covid19@andrews address is one place to share those questions. There is a second way. Some students in particular asked, is there an anonymous way to share a concern? And it may be a concern that you have with an approach that the university is taking. Now, an anonymous report won't allow us to get back in dialogue with you. We've found over the past several days that having the opportunity to dialogue personally with you when you have questions has really brought understanding. It's helped us say, wow, that is an area we could sharpen up on and fine tune a process. And we've been able to share with you some information that I think has deepened your understanding. So there is still a way on the drop-down box of the faculty staff. Now, Ben, you have a way that probably students can do it off your webpage, but you want to look for a link that says report a concern or report an incident. And there is a way for you to share a concern, and it will come to us as a public report, and it can be anonymous if that's what you choose. I think Jose, we're just thinking about time here.
We have two questions left. So
Okay.
did you want me to ask?
Oh, okay. I think there is a question here. What happens to students? And of course, there's one about faculty and staff. I'll have to have the president or provost respond to that violate the covenant of care. The provost, I'm sorry, the president already shared this at the front end, but there's no question that it is a violation of the Code of Student Conduct. And yes, there'll be some more minor type of violations that could result in warning or probation. But yes, to be quarantined for 2 weeks is going to be an immediate response if you intentionally went to a gathering where it was clear that it wasn't going to be possible to social distance. And yes, just as we've had with other type of inappropriate gatherings, if these regulations are too difficult for you, you do have a choice in where you want to be, but it's not going to be able to be here at Andrews if your intent to violate the covenant of care. You do have a choice, but it's a choice to be somewhere else, because here we all have a responsibility to follow what's outlined to keep us safe, to keep each other safe, and to be a Christ-like community caring for each other and this place. So I would love to have very, very, very few of these violations and have you each be helping each other take this seriously so that we can continue to provide you the face-to-face experience that you're longing to have and that we want to continue to be able to provide for you. Thank you.
All right, one last question. Andrews University has not traditionally been referred to as, you know, Andrews Matrimonial College, like some of our sister schools, but we've had a couple of questions come regarding dating. Anyone want to take that one on?
I was going to ask one of my bosses to take it on, because interestingly, they'll know that we've had this question ourselves in many of our plans over the summer. And we didn't quite come up with a response because yes, we're here to develop healthy relationships. Do you have a suggested response, Dr. Luxton, of what you would recommend?
Yeah, well, other than the 6 feet, you know, I think just being realistic here, I think if two people are in a relationship, they are going to get closer, and it is going to be like your roommate, and you are going to put each other at that level of risk that you would with a close family member. And so I think that is just reality of that. And, you know, and I think we're aware of that, and we're not going to, we're not going to see two people who are holding hands and come and force you 6 feet apart and tell you to you know. So I think we're just going to be realistic with that, and recognize, hey, that's life. It's a good part of life. It does carry a little bit of risk, but I think we have to work with it.
Okay, we all heard it. And of course, you got to balance that with, how you can get quarantined, but that may be the risk. But we actually right now have roommates where you can be quarantined if your roommate gets positive. So it's a similar risk, but I appreciate you responding, Dr. Luxton, and we will respond accordingly.
Yeah, and just to clarify, since someone had asked specifically if this would be considered a family unit, you will not be quarantined as a family unit.
Oh,
Just to be clear.
Good.
Just to be clear. Yeah. All right. Glad we got that cleared away. I saw several questions come in. If you have more questions, we've just gone through our questions that have come in through the email. We invite you right now to go ahead and email covid19@andrews.edu. Okay, and we'll continue to respond to questions. And just like has been the nature of this season in the pandemic, we fully expect that there will be more questions over the next several weeks, and we'll constantly be continuously updating our protocols as circumstances continue to go on. So please never be afraid to ask a question. We want to inform you to the degree that we're able to. I just saw Dr. Luxton unmute, so maybe she wants to say something.
Yes, and I was just going to say, in the spirit of community, please share what you've heard tonight with your friends. Please let them know about what we're trying to do to care, but please also let them know about where the concerns are and the seriousness with which we're taking things. As your friends and your peers, you are going to have a lot of impact and influence with your friends. So please do continue to talk to them. We will continue to try and communicate and push things out there to the community as a whole. But we're all part of that community and that communication chain. So thank you.
Thank you. VP Nixon, would you please pray us out?
Sure, let's pray. Dear God, we thank you so very much for this opportunity that we've had to share with one another. God, we know that there are lots of really important questions. Many have been asked tonight. Many have been answered, I believe, to the best of our ability. But God, we know that you are the answer to all of our questions, ultimately. And so we commit every individual who is on this call, all of our leaders, all of our students, all of our employees, to you and into the palm of your hands. We pray, God, that you would go before us, that you stand beside us, that you carry us where necessary. God, in this moment, we are praying for safety and for protection. Well, we recognize that oftentimes safety and protection comes from you in the form of good information, best practices, keeping ourselves safe, keeping others safe. Help us to remember what those things are, that good information, those best practices that have been given to us through various different vessels. Many are here on this call. Many are in our local county health department. Many are even as high as our governor's office. We thank you for those best practices you've given us so that we can continue to commune as a community, but also be safe. And so, God, we're not going to be reckless in saying we commit ourselves to you, but we're going to do our part. We're going to trust that you will do the rest. We thank you and we praise you for all these things. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for staying with us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
We'll see you around from a distance.